I've just realised that picture's not particularly. That's not particularly apt for today in Britain. I haven't got one to hand. The nearest I've got is probably this. It's gonna have to do. I think. The question is who? Which of us has been singing? I blame David Millen every time. Every time.
Absolutely, you should hear me singing in the shower. I've got a cease and desist notice now.
And that's both for singing in the shower. It's all of a sudden it's freezing cold and pissing down constantly.
Yeah. Hello,
why it surprises me each year, David? Why it catches me unaware every time? I should be used to it by now for 50 years.
It came as a big shock to my system when the clocks went back, because suddenly I was like, oh, because because the weather really started to improve sort of the back end of March. So for sort of 7 months, we had barely any rain, lovely sunshine, really sort of warm.
Yeah, it was okay, wasn't it?
Really above normal temperatures for June. I remember being at Headingley on a Thursday, and this is Leeds, and it was 32 degrees on a sort of. It was only 18th, 19th of June. I'm thinking
it's a race course, isn't it?
Raining.
Is it a race course?
A cricket ground, of course.
A cricket ground,
and that was for a change. That was in Leeds, and it should have been about 14 and hurtling down with rain. And then suddenly the back end of October came, and it was sort of like, that's your lot. It's now going to be cold for the next 6 months. And you've even got out your woolly hat again. You've gone back to the woolies, and it's just sort of, where's I've got my t-shirt on because the good lady's working downstairs and she's got the heating ramped up, and I'm sat next to a radiator. So it's not that I'm immune to the cold, but it's just gone crazy. It's just sort of like, here's your rain.
Yeah, Colin is frolicking. I don't think it was actually a rainy day when they took this. It would have been Black Park, wasn't it, when he was first cast? I think.
Yeah. And I loved that umbrella. I really did, because my mum and dad used to have a very similar umbrella. I think my mum might still have it, and I loved it. I thought it was a good prop as well.
Good accessory.
And not. Yeah, it wasn't used that much as a prop, sadly. But when it was used as a prop, it was a good prop. And it sort of takes away from his costume.
I think that was the problem. I think it distracted incredibly, managed to distract from the costume. We had to wait. Umbrella devotees had to wait a whole other incarnation before they'd get something to really shout about. But that was jet black, wasn't it? Just had the red handle, which was oddly far more distracting. It was like Batman. Batman would never walk around with the bat signal, would he? It tucked under his arm. That's what it looked like.
However, I do have 2 of them, one for best and one for general use, and they are very good. Yeah, 2 Sylvester McCoy umbrellas.
Okay,
they are very, very good for when you're out and about, for hanging on a pocket, particularly if you've got a pocket on the outside. They are brilliant for that. So, you just got to work out where you put it so you don't unnecessarily cause yourself a temporary disablement in the midships, if you see what I mean. So,
well, I used to have one that I would tie. I would sort of take the handle. I would sort of tie the cord around the handle and sort of hang it from my jacket. But I'm talking about the early 90s here. So this would have been after Sylvester McCoy's era. And I used to wear, with the 90s, I was into the Manchester scene, Happy Mondays and spiral carpets. So I was wearing sort of bucket hats and things like that. And global hypercolor t-shirts, the 4 works, mate. I was in it up to my neck. I really was. I got my haircut was just like Shaun Ryder's when the Mondays first came out. So it was like there are photographs. There are photographs out there. So I went full tilt into that routine. It
had to be done.
But, the one anachronism was that I hated being caught out in the rain. It was before I passed my driving test, so I would still carry an umbrella everywhere. But I never got on board. It was never jet black with a red handle. I didn't commit. to that
No,
extent.
I do love that description. I was full on Shaun Ryder with a brolly. So I think
Yeah.
that's a fantastic sort of thing.
Yeah, I never once saw Shaun Ryder with a brolly. I suspect that Bez could have owned one or two.
Definitely.
Well, this is meant to be a sort of chill stream, but things are. I think we've covered that things are chilly enough, aren't they? Definitely chilly enough out
Yeah.
there. I think we need one of these, don't we? We need some sort of porta cabin or a tire
I
some
love that.
wheels.
I seriously love that. That is a brilliant. Where's that from? Do you know who owns it? Or
I
or
have
anything like
no idea. This is this is the sort of stuff I get up to. So this would have been a picture I saved a while ago, and without having made a note of whose it was. So if this is your van, then please let me know in the live chat there on YouTube. I'd love to know who this actually belongs to. If you've still got it, is it for sale? Because it would make an ideal, make a great mobile studio, David. It'd be brilliant.
It would. It reminds me that there is a chap who owns, and I don't know if he's still got it, who owns a pink tank in Peckham. And they actually use
That sounds like the name of a wine bar, the Pink Tank.
Yeah, it literally is a pink Russian tank. And they actually made use of it in Ashes to Ashes. So if you see one of the episodes of Ashes to Ashes, that's the production team got hold of the chap who owned the pink tank and said, "Can we use it? Because it's well known for existing. Can we use this pink tank in Ashes to Ashes?" And they did. Which is
it got
fantastic.
a fluffy? Oh, that's the only thing I can think of that comes close to that is when Roland Rat used to drive around in a bright pink London taxi. Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was amazing with the pink fluffy dice. It's got to have pink fluffy dice as well.
The Ratmobile.
Yeah,
I was a big Rat fan. At one time I was a bigger Rat fan than I was a Doctor Who fan. I think. My form.
Yeah,
that might be before your time, Roland Rat. Was he?
No. I remember Roland Rat as if it were yesterday with Kevin the Gerbil, and and Errol.
Hello,
of course,
Roland.
people forget Errol. You can't forget Errol.
I wasn't going to do Errol because if either of us tries to do the Welsh accent, Luke Walters will appear. He will manifest and wag his finger and say, "No, boy, you're going to pack that in."
And Roland Rat. And that group of characters saved TVAM. That's how fantastic they were. Because I think that was when Chris Tarrant was actually on TVAM as well. And they basically Birmingham. Birmingham saved TVAM. Chris Tarrant and Roland Rat.
Yeah,
so,
I know the guy who was Roland Rat, who still is Roland Rat. I think he was quite young when he did that. He's still around, but he is from Birmingham. He is a local. He's around here somewhere. I did know his name and where he was, but I've deliberately sort of scrubbed it from my memory so I can fool myself into thinking it was a real rat.
Yes, absolutely. And I did have a Roland Rat hand puppet as well, because they were a thing in 1985.
I didn't have that, but I did have the LP. I got the LP and bought all the singles and a couple of jigsaws, that kind of thing. Yeah, I was
in the days before Jive Bunny. Yes.
I don't know the things we find to talk about over a quick lunchtime pint. Obviously, what's on my mind, I have to say, I said we probably wouldn't talk about this, but I can't help myself. How far is it now? So it's Wednesday. They've got 2 days. They've got 2 days, David.
Oh, it's literally amazing. And I followed this story really closely because I have friends who work for Network BBC and local BBC as well. And it's all I can say is that I sort of compare it to is you are in the biggest cup final of your life.
Right.
You're not expected to win, okay, but you are very much the underdog. And you go up you kick off and you literally turn round and boot the ball past your own goalkeeper several times.
Yeah.
And it is the biggest act of self-sabotage. And he has absolutely a right to issue legal proceedings because he has been libelled at the end of the day. You might not agree with him. You might not agree with his politics. but you don't put something out that he didn't actually say. And
It's
that
been
is the
amusing. It's been amusing in the last couple of days since I did the last sort of chill stream that wasn't a chill stream, really. It was me kind
yeah,
of really digging into it. Is that in that intervening time, what I've noticed is that there are people who are still clinging on to it, insisting that the BBC, that it was a bit of sloppy editing. That was a really polished editing job. They'd even gone to the extent whereby they'd altered the background noise of the crowd, of the wind, so that that would be seamless in the background.
yeah,
To create what we would call in audio, I've edited audio and video, what we would call a bed, to make it sound like a natural environment, so that to the naked ear, you would never think there was an edit there. That was very deliberately, purposefully done to misrepresent the guy and what he was saying.
You can't see the join, and that's the issue. You can't even hear a click. And you're absolutely right. They've used other audio to trick the brain into thinking that it is a seamless piece of audio. Now, it's not like the edit that the famous Smith and Jones, Mel Smith and Griff Rhys-Jones did of the police interview, where basically they video the sort of edit it all together to get the confession. when they've got enemies and when they've been beaten up and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing. It's not one of them sort of jump edits or the sort of really rough edits. It is a seamless transition. That was 54 minutes, I believe. Apart from God, that guy can talk for that length of time, but they spent 54 minutes between the thing. It's a look. As I said, people may not agree with his politics. Absolutely fine. People might not like him. Absolutely fine. People do like him. That's also good. But you don't change what they say, because this is wrong.
This is a bipartisan matter, and the only people that I see arguing against it online are saying, "Oh, Trump shouldn't do this. Oh, they should just tell him to go and do one." And he's bullying them. No, they've bullied. This isn't a fucking playground. They've bullied. They've libeled this guy, and it's more serious than that, because this is a world leader. He's the leader of the free world, really. They've really misrepresented this man, and there's this belief out there, and this is really strong in Doctor Who circles across social media, because we know that anybody who's not left-wing, isn't far left, isn't really allowed to speak. Centrists or right-wing people, certainly not phantom far-right people who I can never find. If you're not far left, you're not allowed to speak on these matters. But I've noticed that the people who are clinging to it, it's not in their heart of hearts, they cannot bring themselves to align with Donald Trump on anything at all, on any matter whatsoever, even when it's a clear case, such as this, of right and wrong. They're morally in the wrong, they're factually in the wrong, and yet they cling to it because they can't, even though they know that the BBC are in the wrong. They cannot bring themselves to align against them if it brings them into alignment with someone who they personally find reprehensible or against their worldview, that kind of thing. It's incredibly childish. Of course, a great many of the people espousing this stuff and making these statements are either literal children or mental children, and therefore it's up to the adults in the room, the well-adjusted, normal adults, to show them the right from the wrong. If their parents haven't done it, then I fucking will. And I've raised many children. They've all turned out fine. So that's how I view it.
And it's people who, and it's a great line from Doctor Who. It's Tom during Tom's time. I forget the episode. It is with Leela, but it's people who instead of changing their opinions to reflect the facts, they try and change the facts to reflect their opinion. And that's the problem. It's what you've got. Look, I don't mind admitting I am not personally a fan of Donald Trump. Yet I do realize that for as much as the stuff I don't like, he's actually done some really good things. And it's like people, if you look back through British prime ministers, for example, the people that have had the most impact being Margaret Thatcher, Tony Blair in recent memories, they did some pretty stupid things and some pretty not very nice things, but by and large, they were successful
So
because
Thatcher was responsible for the poll tax, but then again, there was a lot more to Thatcher than the poll tax.
But exactly, and you could argue that the poll tax, or the community charge, as she loved to call it, was probably the most socialist thing that a Conservative government. It was more socialist than the Labour Party. Every person,
now you've said it.
Ironically, every person shall pay their dues. And that is a very socialist policy that she tried to bring in, and she was castigated for it.
And it's the same. I mean, I don't think we've learned anything in particular, but generally speaking, sort of politically, I think the Uni Party has been in existence for a while, been dominant for a while. But I think what we have seen is the reality of the BBC and their cavalier attitude towards facts exposed now. You think, okay, they've been doing this for a number of years. It's been the emergence of independent media, of citizen journalism, of people being able to film stuff that's happening right in front of them on their smartphones, that's exposed them for fabricating stuff across the board. This is just the latest example. It's one thing for them to misrepresent the little man, or somebody who lives an independent life, or even public figures who are just smaller, who haven't got the funds to take them on to make those kind of demands. I personally don't think Trump has any real intention. He doesn't want to sue them, but I think he fucking will if he doesn't get that apology, and he's got every right to ask for one. That's the bare minimum that they owe anyone. They never apologized. Did they apologize to Cliff Richard? There's a list of people as long as your arm that the BBC have done over. I know some of them. So
I think
see how it works.
I think that went through the courts. Yeah, I think they settled out of court with Cliff Richard. So the details of that will probably never ever come, but will become to through that. But the thing is, it's if somebody edited one of your videos to say, "I really love Jodie Whittaker," okay, and then put that out, I think you would be within your rights to issue a sort of libel for that.
Yeah. So if I felt strongly enough about it
as a citizen, and the thing is, exactly, if you felt strongly about it. So Donald Trump has had that said about him, which he didn't actually say, and you've got an official national news organization putting that out. It sort of really is bad and wrong and is a lie. So yeah, he has a right to take action. And several media people have suggested that he does this against many organizations and is bullying and all this, that, and the other. That's up to people to make up their own minds. However, if somebody publicly lies about something and broadcasts it and has it on their streaming service, and the board behind it say, actually, he didn't say that, and this is wrong, and you shouldn't have done that, or you should have put a wipe in, or some
to make it clear that time had passed between
to make it look like it's, but no, they edited it together with pretty sinister library music going on in the background to imply that we're going to go down and we're going to fight and we're going to do this, that, and the other, and power to the people, all that sort of stuff. And and for a national, supposedly respected in some people's opinions, organization, international organization, to do that, and then to have also a department called Verify, which verifies against fake news and bad editing and all the stuff that you see regularly advertised on the news channel is, we have so many experts to prevent this sort of thing from happening, and yet one of your flagship political programs goes and does the same thing. It's incredibly hypocritical.
It's going to be a very,
sort
very
of,
interesting 48 hours, David. I can't wait to see how this plays out. I suspect they're going to have to cave. They're going to have to bring that apology. Until then, we'll have to sit tight and amuse ourselves, I suppose.
It's going to have to be a grovel, and it's going to have to be a sort of, we're really, really, really sorry. And especially, there is also quite another really interesting element to this. BBC are trying to expand in America as well, through BBC America and through various other subscription deals for America.
Well, they were.
They were. Now
I can't see that.
So with the Donald being rightly or wrongly, it's up for you to decide, quite attuned to various different media companies and their ambitions, for example, that might not have commercially gone down very well with the executives trying to promote that in America, who must be now going, oh my God, what have they done? You know, and it's a fantastic example of corporate sabotage brought on by themselves. A bit like to what Number 10 Downing Street have done with respect to Keir Starmer and the events that have just kicked up a huge political storm by themselves against their party by calling them feral. You know, and
that as well.
Many of them may well be.
It could be quite a good thing that Doctor Who itself has to sit the great large amount of this out. God, this is just like being in the pub, isn't it? Yes, I may have always been a twat according to Doctor Who Positive, but I'm actually Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks, and this is Mr. David Melling. Welcome everybody who's been listening so far. Thank you for joining us on a wet Wednesday afternoon. It's what they call hump day, but whenever anybody says hump day to me, I always start to think about sex.
Well, once yearly nearly. So once weekly.
Yeah, that's how it works. And yes, to move the subject swiftly on, David, I mean, the reason why I thought you'd be the ideal person to speak to this afternoon, not only would because I knew that you would cheer me up with your sunny demeanour on a wet afternoon, because I knew it was going to be nasty today, because it's been nasty every day, of course it has. But I also knew that you are definitely missing Mr. Ncuti Gatwa. And
just look at him, isn't he gorgeous? You know.
I think we're meant to be wondering what this great mind of our time is possibly thinking of in that moment.
He's
I'll tell you what,
probably thinking,
if he was to fart and follow through in that suit, it would go through probably the suit and stay in that chair, which looks very expensive.
It would, but I think he's probably saying to himself, how long is it? Do you get a free Domino's after you've ordered it? I think he's looking at his watch and saying it's been 30 minutes, and or fuck me, my knees hurt. You know.
But I do have some good news for you, because if you're missing Ncuti, both looking at Ncuti and the sound of his melodious voice, you'll be able to get your fix very, very soon. So it's been announced that Ncuti Gatwa is to lend his voice to the character of Jane Staplegun in a new film. So he'll be one of the voice actors, one of the voice cast of this brand new sort of kids film, big animated kids movie, alongside that Cynthia Erivo, the star of Wicked. Now, David, I have to say that my kids now are far, far older than the target audience for those sort of feature-length CGI animation things. I used to have to go and see all of them at the cinema. My sons and my girls, we'd all pile into Toy Story 3, How to Train Your Dragon, Epic, all that sort of stuff. And I loved them at the time, you know. And my stepdaughter, you know, we went to see Sing 2, I think, about 18 months, 2 years ago. And but now they make so many of them, and I'm sure the voice casts are made up of all these people, B-listers and downwards. I don't pay that much attention anymore. But do you think this is a big deal? I mean, Cynthia Erivo seems to be very popular. God, that woman's a strange woman. Does she always go out like that? She could never bring a shopping in or take the bins out with those nails, could she?
It makes picking a nose quite, or quite hazardous, or maybe maybe they're quite good for getting to that bit of your back that you can't get to when it's itchy. But
do you think she's got a hairy back? I don't think I want to find out, to tell you the truth. I don't know anywhere else, but it's like a matted mass on her back, but everything else is smooth. Do you think she's one of those types?
Yeah, she's got a bit of she's got a few ingrowing hairs that might cause her a few issues. But no, yeah, I really, like you, went to all those sorts of things, and I'm not as sure as they're as big as they used to be. Obviously, Trolls aside, I'm not as sure. I don't think they are as big. My sister-in-law, who has kids 6 and 8, there's certainly not as much stuff for them to go and watch. And I think we were lucky in the fact that there was one on every other week. And my favourite out of all of them is still Cars 2. I have to say, Cars 2 for me it was the best one. It's slowly followed by Shrek 2. And I thought that was a good one. But though we went to see all of them, Inside Out, Postman Pat, you name it, we saw it. And Postman Pat I particularly liked because they had have you seen the Lego Batman movie?
Yeah.
I
love all those Lego ones.
I love Postman Pat and the Lego Batman movie because they had a Dalek in them. And that was when Doctor Who was really big in America, so they had to reflect it that way. So I love the Lego movies, and I love those sort of things. And frankly, I think time has sort of passed now. And I think that large bit of creative animation that we saw has sort of just disappeared.
I think it's because they used to feel like events when there was a new Shrek film, a new Toy Story film, even a new Kung Fu Panda movie. I think it clung on there for a time. And then it got to the point where there was a new one every 2 or 3 weeks. And I certainly, as a parent, could never keep track of them. And I'm not sure the kids could too. I think when there was too many of them for the McDonald's to keep up with their Happy Meals, because they would always be tied into some sort of growing. I think that was when the bubble started to break. So quite frankly, I don't know if there's any real cachet to being in the voice cast of something like this anymore. I mean, this one is described as an original musical comedy that follows the delightful subversive gang of fairies. You couldn't write this, could you? As they shake up the magical world. Are you sure that's for kids? That sounds like a drag night or something. So it's called Bad Fairies, believe it or not. It's called Bad Fairies. I think he needs to speak to his agent. So could this be a bit of a woke fest? That's what I'm wondering. The songs are written by this pair. This is Lucy Moss and Toby Marlowe. So I think it could be.
Sorry, who's who?
On the woke side would be my guess, David. I don't know why. I would think that. Maybe I'm just prejudiced. I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, is that the modern hinge and bracket? But I don't. I'm not quite sure where we are now. I'm
having a good night.
A little bit lost.
Yeah, wherever they are. So that's due in cinemas 21st of May 2027. A long wait for that. Bad Fairies with the voice of Ncuti Gatwa and Cynthia Erivo. Let us know, everybody, if that's something that's going to be on your must-see list. I mean, how I look at it is that Ncuti Gatwa's not our problem anymore. So I think we're laughing. We're laughing, really. There's people listening to us rambling on, David. I suppose we ought to see how they are. Okay. Yeah, Woodhouse 122 is up and about and cognizant enough to offer this comment. At least Shooty Gatwa won't have any problems with his knees doing the voice work. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, that is something. Maybe he's able to do the acting from that rather elegant chair he was in. Sort of, giving it all this. Oh, is it my turn to speak? Sort of thing.
He would have recorded it in situ.
Yes. Yeah, like that.
You could be right. You could be right. Yep, I think people have definitely missed him. Going back to the BBC story, the Dark Place says BBC have verified that the BBC are fucked.
I love that.
Yeah, but I knew that people would still be thinking and talking about this. Yeah, the BBC's editorial policies obviously are not in line with things that the general public want, can relate to, recognise, and in many respects believe in on either a moral level or even religious levels too. So they simply don't reflect the British public in the way they used to. They on the surface they appear to hate Britain and British values. So it is a very strange thing. And Not Banksy says they've done a hatchet jobs on the police, other institutions, and many members of the public. Yeah, I know several people who've been done dirty. We've also flushed out some fellow Roland Rat fans. You'll be pleased to hear, David. In Problem Being, I had the Roland Rat cassette.
Yeah.
Fame. Did he show he sang Fame? I've got that album somewhere, but I think mine's on vinyl.
Yeah.
Like the gatefold
it's collector's edition. Yeah. I'd love to hear that again.
Ashes to Ashes. So that's your comment about the pink. Was it a pink tank?
Pink Russian tank. Yeah.
So apparently, Ashes to Ashes needs a Blu-ray release, seeing as they scrapped it. I've never seen either Life on Mars or Ashes to Ashes on Blu-ray. It's just
it's such a shame.
Yeah, because they're very high quality shows, aren't they?
Brilliant.
Very, very weird. Very weird. It's been Stephen O'Neill hasn't watched either of those shows since they were broadcast 15 years ago. And we've got Lee says, I once saw the Ratmobile driving through Kingston back when I was a kid. I'd have loved that. I'd have been thrilled. He was my hero. He really was. Funky also has a Sylvester McCoy umbrella, so you got 3 between the two of you. I've never got one. I don't think I've got an umbrella.
Oh, they're wonderful. Very well designed.
I've got a kind of one of those that sort of folds down, so it's like Daredevil's baton, so you sort of collapse it down like that. It's my
way.
A
truncheon.
Yeah, it is a bit like that because it's got that kind of swinging kind of. I always feel like I should be swinging it a little, like the coppers used to do in the old movies, or Charlie Chaplin, that kind of thing. Just swing it around. But the truth of the matter is, I think I inherited it from my nan. I've just had it for 20 odd years or something like that. Adrian says, good afternoon, David.
All right, afternoon, Adrian.
Afternoon, everybody. How are you going? And more people laughing at the misfortune of the BBC and making a mental note whether they're going to go and see old Shooty Gatwa or go and listen to Shooty Gatwa in his thing, whatever that is. There is a Life on Mars Blu-ray. It's upscaled because it wasn't shot in HD. Ashes to Ashes 3 is in HD. So, okay. Yeah, because it would have been around that time when everything was turning, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be that sort of 2010 time when everything was going to HD and all this and the other. It makes me laugh because the BBC at that time spent millions upgrading Television Centre with all the cameras to HD, and then 3 years later closed the building. A wonderful use of money.
Public money, mate. It's always raining more. They never have to worry about where the next slot's going to come from. BBC Verify was a joke from when they first brought it in. It certainly was. I just hope the BBC stay standing long enough for them to complete the Doctor Who collection on Blu-ray. At least if they're not going to get around to Ashes and Life on Mars, then at least bang these out while you can. I don't know if you've been following this story, mate, but Lee Binding, who does all that fabulous artwork inside and out on those sets, he has teased which the next release could be. We've just had season 13, which caused a certain amount of controversy itself, but he started teasing as to which the next set could be. And this is our first look. We're supposed to be able to look at this and work out which season will be the next one that's released. This is his artwork, apparently, out there. So what can you make out there? Because the season 16, 11, or 21 are the colour ones left, aren't they? So what's your take on this?
Easy. Season 21. Obviously, the two yellow bits at the top are obviously the Doctors. The one in the middle is probably I don't know, the Daleks. The color scheme, if you go back to the Caves of Androzani, for the regeneration sort of last bit where it's going to that final chord that Graham Harper would based around the Day in the Life from the Beatles. Right. That's the same color as those sort of effects. So that says to me, season 21, without a shadow of a doubt. If I'm wrong, I will renounce my passion for England cricket, for the England cricket team.
Oh, so, we're talking big stakes here. Never mind Donald Trump and his $1 billion. We're talking big fucking stakes here. Now you've said that, because I wondered what those two larger smears could be. I did consider, was it meant to be sort of Time Lord robes, because it sort of arches over, but now I think you're probably right. You could be right. I mean, this also reminds me of that global hypercolor shirt that I used to have in the Manchester years I was telling you about a moment ago. I think that's all it's missing. But to me, all of these look the friggin' same every time. And I appreciate Lee doing this and trying to sort of generate hype and maintain interest in the range. I think this is all part of the fun. I have no bloody idea. But you could be right about the two Doctors, because he has to have Colin on there too, I believe. I know it's only the one story, but I think he has to be there.
Yeah, he has to be, because he is legitimately in one story. And I as much as I dislike the Twin Dilemma, I think it was quite, how can I put it? I think it was quite a bold and brave piece of television to follow on from, which is arguably one of the greatest stories ever told or shown, from a directorial, writing and performative point of view. But you've got to have Colin on there, really, because he was the Doctor for a whole 4-part adventure. So it would be unfair not to have him on there.
Our live chat would appear to agree with you. People seem to think that's the regeneration scene immortalized on what will be the outer case for the season 21 Blu-ray set. Maybe
with lots of AI, hopefully.
Oh God! Oh, don't get me started on that.
I'm joking.
It's I'll do another half an hour on that. Nobody really wants that. Obviously Peter Davison, the Peter Davison era. This will be the final release in that era. If season 21 is indeed the one, Peter Davison himself, I saw this week, is he was marking his 50th anniversary on the telly. So he was in Birmingham, not far from me, in fact, at the Midlands Arts Centre here for the Square Eyes TV Festival, which included an interview here and a Q&A session with a waiting audience. I can't believe this totally passed me by. And it's only 4 miles up the road. I've got no idea how I managed to miss this, but he looks very relaxed. I didn't even know that the Square Eyes TV Festival existed. So this could be something to put to follow on social media, I suppose, if they're going to do it again. But 50 years of Peter Davison on telly. I can believe it. I can believe it. Because what was he, first in the Tomorrow People, something like that?
I believe so, yes. I think he then went on to All Creatures Great and Small after that. But I believe it was the Tomorrow People. And, he's just had such a great career, because I know we said about Tony Cornter and various other people who
Oh, I
sadly
love him.
not passed recently. It, Peter Davison is one of those people who is just a brilliant character actor. You can put him in any sort of role.
Yeah.
And one of the most bizarre roles, I think, which is not very, which is sort of not really a sort of Peter Davison role, was when he played a sort of almost pervy writer in Death in Paradise, a struggling pervy writer. But he pulls it off brilliantly, and it's just sort of like, you really are a good actor. Because
people underestimate Peter Davison as an actor, David. I think,
and they really do. And I think they just say, "Oh, it's just feckless and just sort of inoffensive." But no, if you see some of the stuff he did as Tristan, standing on tables and drinking and singing and everything in All Creatures, and then compare it to Campion, a very peculiar practice, Doctor Who, obviously. He has played some fantastic characters in his time, and each of them, apart from probably Tristan and the Fifth Doctor, are very, very different to each other.
One another. Yeah, they are.
Do
you think that people underestimate him? But do you think that people underestimate him because he doesn't do funny voices? He doesn't drastically alter his appearance. You'll seldom see him sort of with a full beard or with really long hair or with no hair or with he's always looks like himself. He might wear a different pair of glasses, but he never really looks drastically different. Whereby other sort of character actors, they deliberately, purposefully transform. Like, wow, is that really there? Like, look at what's his name, the Welsh guy that everybody loves, Michael Sheen. He often does some, he completely changes his entire look to go with that performance. Either to play a person that used to live, like he played Kenneth Williams, didn't he, and David Frost and all these people. But when he goes into a character too, he'll sometimes have like really long hair or that kind of long beard, or be really camp with bright white hair in that bloody awful thing he does with Tennant. It's always the whole thing. Whereas Davison always tends to look like Peter Davison. He looks quite cuddly and slightly irascible.
It comes back to the everyman sort of character, the bloke, the average bloke in the street, your average sort of person, and for me, that is I would suggest is a more difficult role to sort of play. Dangerous Davis is one for The Last Detective. He's a put upon, pretty sad copper whose marriage is failing. He's got a best mate who's a crackpot. He's got a landlady who's trying to get in his knickers all the time. He drives a crap car, and him and his ex-wife or estranged wife are always arguing over the custody of who has the dog for a particular weekend. His colleagues think he's just a wet wipe, wet as anything. But he's got that steely sort of determination. He played a very wimpish character in At Home with the Braithwaites, but he's just done. He can play, sort of really pathetic characters and really strong characters with that core of inner strength running through him, and I think that's a hell of a. A hell of an admirable thing to do, because he's not an action hero. He's just the average bloke in the street doing an average job, trying to be the best he can. And I think that's a tantamount to his talents. So,
well, talking about being in the street, this is where he was last spotted Doctor Who in Doctor Who terms. He wasn't on the street, he was on the docks, which is usually quite a dangerous thing to do. Not like that. He's too old for that.
Oh God, oh God.
So this is Peter Davison
Picking up trade.
at the Docklands in London. So this would have been the location of Resurrection of the Daleks. So they've been filming all over that general sort of area, which obviously does point at the season 21 box set being, if not the next one, then certainly very nearby.
Yeah.
So yeah, here he is with Janet Fielding. I just think, given how he is like so much older now, 72, 73, and has that kind of slightly irascible quality that some of his predecessors had, I just think it's delightful to see these pictures, particularly as they've still got the same box. David, did you see these?
Yeah, I did. I was just sort of, my heart sort of filled with joy, because I know he was sort of, his time on Doctor Who, he said obviously at the start, Pat Charlton told him to do 3 years. He wasn't quite happy with some of the stories in his first and second season, and he made his mind up, and then they gave him his final season, and he just went, oh damn it, I wish I could have stayed and seen how it developed. But I think he got out at the right time for him. But I think looking back on it, I mean, he was my Doctor 100% when I was growing up. And I was devastated when he turned into Colin Baker. And I always sort of looked at Colin Baker with disgust in the fact that he almost sort of replaced my favourite Doctor. So I never truly warmed to Colin Baker as I did Peter Davison. But I feel that he has been quite often the fans' spokesperson, or reflecting best the fans, particularly us older fans, feelings about how the show is going, how the show perhaps might have not been progressing as best as possible as it has been.
Because he's always polite, isn't he, David? Even if he's being scornful, he's always polite.
He's very polite, and he's very diplomatic in the way that he speaks. So he will say, well, actually, I'm not quite sure that this is probably the best, which is as diplomatic as you can be, rather than Colin Baker's, and latterly Sylvester McCoy, being quite pompously dismissive. And no, you will enjoy it and you will like it, and you're being silly, which is, it doesn't always go down well with people. But I think the reason why Peter is very well respected and we love him for it is because he's at least considers the opposite point of view, which is very much his Doctor, which is very much fair, thoughtful, and he might say something you don't like, but he'll say it in a way that you can't help love what he's just said, and he's got a rather a good strength of opinion, but doesn't voice it in a way that's going to upset people, or it shouldn't upset people. And for me, I'm going to say something now that will upset a lot of Colin and Sylvester fans. I'm sorry. I do admire their work. I do think some of their stories are great. But for me, Peter was probably the last Doctor. Doctor.
There's something performative about the way. I think there's something performative about the way that the other gentlemen you've spoken about have handled stresses of culture that have showed themselves in editorial decisions connected with Doctor Who. I think they've said sensible enough things to preserve their own position and said the things that they believe that people want to hear. Whereas Peter Davison, I believe, continues to speak for himself from a considered position of a wealth of life experience, not just as an actor, but as a bloke, as a dad, as a granddad. And I think he's invaluable. I sincerely do. It's one thing because obviously Tom Baker is very, very eccentric, and he has that kind of otherworldly quality. He had children, he had a family life, but he's not an easy person to relate to, whereas Peter Davison is. And because he always phrases everything, I mean, it doesn't matter how politely you phrase anything. If people don't want to hear it, particularly in the modern world, they're always going to view you as an enemy, as someone who is contrary to your belief in conflict with your worldview, and is therefore an enemy and needs to be removed, taken down, debunked, I suppose. And David just won't have it, and he just gets on with it. These pictures that we've been showing here from, I want to say Neil Whitaker snapped these. I don't know if he was supposed to snap these, but he did anyway, from the location of what looks like, almost certainly the filming of VAM for the season 21 box set, which is probably on the way fairly soon. As for when, obviously we can't possibly say, can we? Hopefully. What I'm really dreading, in all seriousness though, David, is I don't want any AI tinkering on what is one of my favorite Doctor Who seasons. I'll need some cheering up, I think, and which means I'll have to get my green canine out again, because that's what usually cheers me up.
Yes. Well, one would hope that the original material is in a slightly better, if not far better condition than the issues that they had with Terror of the Zygons. Personally speaking, I even watched Terror of the Zygons, the new version, with my glasses on to make sure I was.
You didn't think it was that bad, did you? It was all right.
No, I have no problems with it, because I'm not from that perspective of probably other people are. I don't view when I watch something, I don't watch it with that perspective that some others may have. I'm more concerned about the story, the characters, the acting, and if the effects are cheap shit and look awful, I laugh. I let that go. But I'm more from a story perspective and a performance perspective. So if I were if I was more concerned with that sort of production work, then I would be bothered. Okay, just like I'm bothered when it's a bad script. So for me personally, it's not a concern, but I can really understand why it's boiled some people's waste product. If you know what I mean.
Lee mentioned if AI is verboten for art, and they would never use AI for the cover of these box sets, then why do they use it for the content that we bought the sets for? That's a perfectly valid question.
It's a very, very good point.
Yeah, I never looked at it like that. I'd be interested to know where their limit would be on that. I mean, they do have that defense when it comes to the Terror of the Zygons, in the material they claim was in a state of disrepair, but they could have always, we've been over it, I know. But it's interesting hearing other people's opinions of it, because since we did that initial Type 40 live about it, I have spoken to several people who simply haven't got a problem with it. So I think you're right. I think people see different things and look for different things. And in all fairness, we all know that as Doctor Who fans, we can be a little too particular sometimes. We're a complicated bunch, and the things which some of us view as sacred cows and things that should never be compromised on or interfered with, other people just don't give a toss. So I still keep, the thing that I keep coming back to is kind of, I think what Lee is pointing to as well, is that even if you accept that product, that AI product can exist, and they can use that to intervene, that wasn't the product that I initially signed up to buy, that I committed to buying, and that I'm now sort of so deep into that I have to keep track on social media accounts to try and work out shit like this. So that's where I keep coming back to. I listen to other people's opinions, experiences of having watched the stuff, and I still arrive back at that position whereby it's all well and good, but if they'd have announced we are bringing Doctor Who out with AI generated content to look better than ever, I would make a decision based on that. Would I have made the same decision to spend 8 years plus of my life collecting these, setting money aside for? I don't think I would have made the same decision. That's what I keep coming back to.
No, and can I make a bold suggestion? Get rid of Ncuti Gatwa's Tales from the TARDIS for the Pyramid of Mars and put the original versions of the stories that they tinkered with on the discs instead, because that may have generated more space. So you get the, as many people have said on the channel, you give people the option. Like if you want to watch it with new and updated effects, which some are all right and some I do, and some I just go, oh, what the hell? I'll just watch it as it was intended, you know. And particularly with a new, still in development technology such as AI, it's not at its greatest at the moment. It's not at its pinnacle. There's still some work to do with it. So if you're going to fiddle around with it, then perhaps wait till it's all singing or dancing, probably come down in a bit of cost, and then you could consider doing it. But always give the option to the purchaser or the viewer, if you like, to actually watch it as though it was intended originally. And look, if it's not as, if you upscale it and it looks a bit ropey, well, it looks a bit ropey, but you know, at least it's as it was intended.
That's what I keep coming back to.
Yeah, and it's
exactly
presented in the best possible way with the original material. But don't you make the option for us? Don't you make the choice for us? Because that's very arrogant to do that, and wrong.
I think we're back to the place of BBC entitlement. I mean, you could say it's their product and their legacy in this instance. So they own the material, they decide how it gets presented to us. And sadly, that probably does hold a certain amount of water. But the customer is always right. And again, we're back to that place whereby the BBC, all arms of the BBC, they do need to start considering us all customers rather than the captive audience or the dedicated fan who will buy anything anyway, and think about us as customers who can still make a choice. So let us know in the comments, what do you think? Is this a dead cert for it to be season 21? And when do you think it will actually be released? How long? Because it was a long time in between the most recent set, season 13, and the one before. So do you think it'll be a little less time, a little less of a wait? Let us know what you think. We're going to stick with home media, stick with the BBC now, and with Blu-ray too. But before we get to that, take a look at this.
Not pay my TV license? That's preposterous. I pay mine monthly by direct debit. Animal Hospital with Rolf Harris is worth the money on its own.
I save for my TV licence with TV licence stamps, which I really like licking because they make your lips really, really luscious.
Yes, I paid for our TV licence down at the local post office.
Dorothy went down and bought it.
I just strolled in, put my dosh on the counter and said, give us one of your lovely licences.
Dorothy did it.
Shut up.
There are many ways to pay for your TV licence. If you'd like written details of our direct debit schemes, please ring 0990 226666. That's 0990 226666.
Good to see Jodie Whittaker in that promotional film there to encourage people to get a TV license, I thought, in the guise of Victoria Wood, if people remember the late, great Victoria Wood. We are obviously down to 2 days until the results will be revealed. How are the BBC going to respond to the President's demand for an apology? They've got until Friday as of time of recording, or he's going to take them to court for $1 billion is the legend. So how do you think that's going to work out? We're waiting with bated breath all of us. We've got, thank you everybody watching and commenting. Do you remember that advert, anybody? Dark Place here says that AI is to art what a microwave is to cooking. Well, do chefs like cordon bleu chefs? Would you find what's his name, like Gordon Ramsay? Does he use microwaves? People.
Well, we all know that Nigella Lawson does because it's a microwave. And yeah, of course they do. It's all. Of course they do. They all use it. And anybody who says that they don't has never worked in a kitchen before. They probably don't use it to yeah, of course they do. They will have a microwave in every kitchen.
I remember when microwaves first came out, and there was cookbooks just for microwaves, and because my mother had one, and I think it wasn't Jane Asher. I think it was Nanette Newman's Guide to Microwave Cooking, and it was a big thick book, and she kept it next to the microwave for years, like about 15 years. Nanette Newman's Guide to Microwave Cooking, and it was all recipes and things like that, and don't put the cat in the microwave, all that kind of stuff. Because it was, the idea that you could have at the push of a button have all that happen. It was kind of beguiling to my mother. She's a pretty basic sort of person. She once set a head on fire by sticking her head in the oven and lighting the gas. I'm not joking. So you give her something that's just sort of push button technology, and she could. It could have gone anywhere, and that's the clumsiest link ever to our next portion of this conversation. We were talking about it a while ago, Dave. We've been speaking about it privately. So if you're going to talk about this, please can I come on and we can do this, we can do that, because this week it has finally arrived from Doctor Who's stablemate sci-fi show from 1978 right the way through to 1981. Blake's 7 and Series B of Blake's 7 was released earlier this week on Blu-ray. So you haven't got Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes, but you have got Series B of Blake 7 in this glorious box set, again festooned with the artwork of Lee Binding, 6-disc set, and beautiful it looks too. Everybody knows I'm a massive Blake 7 fan. You probably are too. I watched it back in the day. I didn't quite see it from the very beginning. In fact, I didn't even see Series B. I came on board with Series C the following year. But when it came out on VHS, I was all over it like a rash. I bought every book I could possibly get, saved every cutting I could get my hands on. And even though there's just those 52 episodes compared to 62 years of Doctor Who, I absolutely adore this show. It's second only to Doctor Who, in my opinion. And this was an instant pull the trigger, instant pre-order for me, David. It's finally here. So have you opened yours, and how are you finding it? Have you taken a look yet?
No, as you can see, it's still sealed in my hands.
There we are.
There you go. Wonderful sort of thing.
Mine is still in the envelope here.
Oh, God bless you. But yes, it's very shiny, very compact. My only slight problem with it is that it's called Series 2. But anyway, we'll get over that because it is Season B.
I'll let them continue to do this, but I don't agree. For me, it should be series. It should be Series A, B, and C. But we have to live with these things. Since I thought I would unwrap mine now, as we are live. So I've got one of these sort of yellow tags. It's not quite an unboxing, as an unopening here of my post.
I will also do.
Open it. You can open it with your teeth.
Open the cellophane.
God, this one's a right thud. Jeez, there we are.
Oh,
okay.
They're awful, those boxes. Oh, I've got a little booklet with
this
it,
one,
which is nice.
Ooh.
So that's a little booklet. Yes.
Blake 7, Series 2, but Series B, BBC. Are you listening? Oh, that's nice. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the artwork in these. I like the fact that they're compact. Obviously, they're based on the Doctor Who, the format of the standard editions of the Doctor Who ones, aren't they, these? You can see why they went down this road rather than the bigger, bulkier sets, because it takes up less shelf space. But Blake 7 is a slightly harder sell, I think. So it's much more sensible they went for this approach. Oh, let's have a closer look at that. Hold on a second. Let's get it. What's that? Oh yeah, I think I've That's on the front of the booklet as well, isn't it?
As well, yeah. So it's a really sort of lovely picture.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's
Very
wonderful.
nice. Because there's not as many photographs that exist from Blake Seven either. I mean, it's not as well documented as Doctor Who, but through the efforts of fans in recent years, digging into the archive and cleaning stuff up, I think we are starting to get more. I think there's more than there used to be. So, David, have you always been a Blake Seven fan? Always been a Blake Seven guy? Because this would have been before your time, certainly.
Yeah, it's like most things, I'll blame my mother. Mum was a massive Doctor Who fan. She's seen every episode of Doctor Who on transmission or videotaped off air when we had a video recorder. So, and she was well into Star Trek and Blake Seven, obviously. Babylon 5, massive fan. Battlestar Galactica, you name it, she was there.
She was glued to the screen.
So Blake, yeah, and I have absolutely vivid memories of being just turned 5 and watching I had to be quiet. You've got to be quiet. It's the last episode of Blake 7. Blake's back. You've got to be quiet. You've got to be quiet. We're going to watch it. Dad, I think, went out, obviously, to talk about a man about a dog.
Yes.
But to the local hostelry, and my mum, sister, baby sister, and I remember sitting down with my mum watching it, laughing at the fact that there was a guy called Avon, because we had an Avon lady at the time, obviously, as most people did. And then Dad came back in near the end of it, and what happened, and she just went, well, that's buggered Christmas up then, hasn't it? Her words. And then it wasn't. I remember watching the repeats of the last season in 1982, and then when it came onto UK Gold, I thought, well, there's this show called Blake 7. I remember seeing the last one of that, but how did it all start? So when it came onto UK Gold, it normally came on either before or after the Doctor Who omnibus. So I just set the video recorder to incorporate that. And I just thought, wow, this is like Star Trek, but darker and bleaker and grittier, and these are a bunch of bastards, aren't they? You know, and I just thought,
bastards, really?
Well, the Fed, well, yeah, both sides, yeah, both sides really. You had the horrible bastards and the nasty bastards of the Federation, and the sort of like the Federation proclaimed bastards were you sort of honor amongst thieves, murderers, and people who generally, some people who had been fitted up and some people who'd been treated appallingly, and your average criminal like Villa and Jenna, and you know, and you had your freedom fighters. Are they a freedom fighter or are they a terrorist? You decide.
Because that's not quite something. That's not quite the spine of the whole show for the full 4 series, is it? But that's the sort of the starting principle, and I think it's there. I think it's at the forefront throughout the first 2.5 series, and then it sort of becomes something else in the middle of series C, and I think it starts to move in a different direction as the broader story starts to evolve, because it couldn't remain at that stalemate forever, and there had to be a push in one direction or another. But that's always the starting point. It's absolutely intriguing. I mean, I say, I've always loved this. The only thing I've ever disliked about Blake 7 is that for a long time, when both Blake Seven and then eventually Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, left the screen, is that I would talk to people about my love of both of these shows and sci-fi generally. And people would say to me, are you a Doctor Who fan? Are you a Blake Seven fan? And if anybody would bring up Blake Seven, because it was a stablemate of Doctor Who, the very next thing that left people's lips would always be, "Oh, it's much better than Doctor Who." Like, whoa, hang on, because the remit
can't compare.
to me it was a very strange thing. Yet they're incomparable. Different times, lots of different remits. They originally produced in different times. It's a crossover in the fandoms, but it was broadcasted completely different time of night to a different demographic. I couldn't see why, but I suppose to the non-geek, there was so little British sci-fi was made, wasn't it, for a mainstream audience, that I suppose in the cold light of day I see why people did. But God, it used to annoy me because I love them both equally.
Yeah. Doctor Who is a show about a man who travels in a knackered time machine. He has got two hearts and is an alien. Blake Seven is about a dystopian look into the future as to what humanity can become. So completely non-comparable at all. And I think that allows Blake Seven to go as dark as it possibly can. And well, we've talked about before how the story starts. That's a very bleak episode, and you do get some incredibly dark episodes in season B as well. And
I think in all of them, in all series, to some extent, and each character that's there initially, or that, because obviously some do fall by the wayside. The first of which in series B, this is when we first lose somebody. But everybody that comes aboard as well has that kind of moral grey areas to their character. Even Dana, who is meant to be only about 18 or 19 years old, because of the way in which she's been raised, there's conflict there too. And that's what I think I love. I think that's what's idiosyncratic to this universe. Another thing that makes it drastically different to Doctor Who, because sometimes you have companions who are multifaceted like that. They tried it with Turlough and a few others, and in the new show as well. But it can never really remain in that place, because those characters have got to reflect the audience. And you don't want to. You've got to be very measured. But with Blake Seven and across all those characters, like 5, 6 humanoid characters, they could play with all these different variations on that theme. And I think that for the most part, Terry Nation, Chris Boucher, and that initial sort of crop of creatives, the people who wrote the most for the show, could hone in on that and have so much fun with it. Robert Holmes certainly seemed to have a lot of fun writing for the show. And a lot of people feel that Series B is the best of the 4. I'm never too sure on that. I can never decide which I enjoy the most, which I think is the best, because they're all the same but different, I think. What do you think?
Absolutely. Dan, can I just take 30 seconds, if that's all right, please? I'll be back with you very shortly.
I'll take some comments from my friends in the live chat, our waiting audience. Farsight, said Dad watched Doctor Who from the first episode. Woodhouse122 said, I discovered Blake Seven due to it following Doctor Who on UK Gold on Saturdays and Sunday mornings in the 90s, and then picking up the VHS tapes. So those would have been the reshoot VHS tapes, wouldn't they? With the spines would all line up, and they'd got the sort of foil sleeves, as I seem to remember. Yeah. Blake Seven, Series B, is in the HMV Blu-ray charts at the moment in the shop. I should hope so. I mean, they should sell. These should sell quite well, I would think.
Yeah.
Because obviously the market for physical media has sadly shrank as well. So yeah, I'd say it probably has.
It'd be interesting to see where it is on in the Amazon charts as well.
I think they always do. I think they always do fairly well. Blake Seven has obviously a smaller fan base than Doctor Who, but we are we are here waiting in the shadows all the time. I mean, this is the poster that I had on my bedroom wall that came with the when you bought the VHS range, if you bought all 26 volumes, you could sort of send off for this poster. So I had this on my wall for years until the thing was sort of falling apart. I do wish I still had it. It's not many things that I haven't got from that time, but this is one that sadly had to go. Blake 7 is a more contained storyline than Doctor Who, says the Dog Place. Well, Doctor Who's an anthology, isn't it? Doctor Who is a succession of storylines, whereas Blake 7, obviously there's individual stories, but there's always that overriding theme of sort of what's going on in the broader universe, which I just love.
And I think season B is the most interesting season because Chris Boucher gets his hands on it full tilt and really does start to sort of like blur that moral sort of stance of, is this guy actually really just insane? And he asks the viewers, is Blake just a bit of a nutter?
Dragging them into everything.
Absolutely. And isn't he just sort of is he just possessed by ideology and obsessed with it and everything like that? And that is it's got a couple of clunky episodes. I think everybody knows the one I'm referring to. Yeah. And but still, the story, I think probably my favorite story of that season, without a shadow of a doubt, is Shadow, because you've got the central character wanting to sort of like, they're your enemy, they're my enemy, so they must be our friends. So it's your enemy's enemy is your friend. So, and he's trying to do a deal with a group of people who are peddling a drug that kills people really nastily, and it's that sort of moral sort of blurring, and you see some of, for me, but Gan's best usage is really having a go at him about that, and that's a really sort of adult sort of piece of drama. And I think whereas Doctor Who is more for a family audience,
It just can't go there, can it? It's all that we say about Doctor Who's flexibility. It can't and shouldn't go there. It's not in its wheelhouse, its remit. It's not what it's for. It's a fantasy. Whereas Blake 7, there are fantastical elements here and there, but largely it's proper science fiction.
Yeah, it is, and it's proper science fiction with dilemma as well. And Trial is another example of the dilemma and the proper sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Obviously, issues as well, payback and problems when it comes to obviously the death of a friend that he may have largely caused, and it's that sort of,
he takes himself away, doesn't he? Soul search.
So you've got,
and to give the others time.
That's the term, the soul searching. And so you've got his own trial that he's putting himself through, mirrored with the trial of Travis, which I still think is Brian Crouch's best work on the series. I know he had a lot of issues with a couple of directors, or one in particular, but I think in that particular story, he showed what a brilliant actor he was. And you've got obviously Avon being deceptively coy in the background and antagonistic more than ever about the fact that Blake actually is supposed to be this great leader, but he actually gets people killed. How long is it before he gets you killed? Sort of thing, and stirring the pot. And I just think that this season takes Blake 7 to a completely different zone than anything really before it. And the fact that
because Terry Nation,
fiction,
as experienced as he was, I don't think he would ever have. I don't think he would have ever have taken it to the places that Boucher in particular could. Never mind would. I don't think Terry Nation thought on those terms. I don't think he was a peddler of kind of superficial entertainment. He clearly did think a lot about his work based on early Blake 7 and Survivors and certain Doctor Who's that he wrote. But what I think once it was out of his system, it was sort of out of his system. Whereas to actually stay with it and to really mine it for the kind of stuff that you're talking about, for that kind of more complex human reactions and societal problems. If you're going to stay with something for a few seasons, you can't just stay on the surface and have sort of a constant tug of war. You have to go deeper, and I don't think Nation was capable of doing that. Whereas Boucher was deeper into the people and to pull at the fabric of that particular fictional universe to see what would be living in between the various cracks, and that's where it needed to go. Otherwise, it would never have made it to a third season. No way.
No, and I think it was Ray Cusick, who designed the Daleks, said once he had a conversation with Terry Nation, and he said, "Terry, why do you write everything as a white featureless background with white walls and white floors?" And he said, "Oh well, I leave all that to be made up by the designers. You think of something. you think of." And Ray Cusick implied that was a sort of laziness of the writing, that almost that sort of thing was a little bit too complicated for him, and that's where Chris Boucher excelled.
I don't think it interested Terry Nation.
No.
I think he conceived of a story that was fit for purpose, that made the page count and would make up X amount of minutes of screen time, and then handed it in, picked up his money, and buggered off home to buy himself something nice. I think it was that transactional with him, and he wasn't alone. There's a great many people who felt that way. Patrick Troughton looked at acting in exactly the same way. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does mean that it couldn't remain with Nation forever. I mean, as regards these Blu-rays, obviously, this was on my mind as well. The thing that Woodhouse 122 was worried about, Woodhouse 122 was wary of that problem with that Doctor Who release with season 13. That conflict, that controversy of using AI. Would that have been used on the Series B box set? But no, it's been said across social media since Monday, since this was released, people whacked it in their players right away to hunt for artifacts, extra artifacts that would have been telltale of the use of AI. And it seems that it simply isn't there on this release. So I'm hoping that it doesn't show itself in the remaining two, but I think that could be a false hope. It wouldn't surprise me if the release of Series C, which I would imagine would be with us this time next year, that may well fall foul of the same thing. And that, again, that's making me wonder. But I will continue to buy these because there's only 4 of them. They don't cost quite so much, and we'll see. I mean, maybe lessons will be learned from the Doctor Who season 13 release, and there'll be more options because there's obviously a scope there. But it could be simply that these could have been made at the same time. I mean, each of the Blake 7 episodes, and Lee mentioned this in the live chat, because each of these episodes, as part of Series B, does get new effects work, doesn't it? You can choose either the original effects or the new ones, which you don't get that with Doctor Who. So maybe they can't, if they're doing that, they haven't got the funds to do the AI stuff as well. So we could get lucky, David, and they may not tamper with it. So. What's it? Bob the Builder? Bob the Builder and Doc Martin weren't my childhood. Very nice. Davey 96. I love the Bob the Builder in particular. I've never seen Doc Martin. That's a very random question.
Quite diverse, I would say, between the two.
For physical media, Davey says he's recently bought Bewitched, the Dick Van Dyke Show, and the Peter Cushing Sherlock Holmes, all on Blu-ray. Not so much of a crossover with the sort of stuff we talk about, but I suppose it is there, and we will, on this particular strand, we'll be diving into other TV shows and things like that with a sort of crossover. It has to have a link of some kind with Doctor Who, though. Obviously, there's Blu-ray collectors, DVD collectors. I think we decide, don't we, whether we think, okay, for this particular range, I can justify, I'll watch this. I know I will rewatch this enough to justify this double dip, triple dip, because I had the VHS, the DVD, and now there's a triple dip.
Yeah.
But if I suppose a lot of people could be happy with the DVDs, and that's fine for them as well. And it's the same principle with Doctor Who. There'll be people who'll just be happy with the DVDs. And at least if you've still got your DVD of Terror of the Zygons, you haven't got to put up with the AI.
Yeah. I can still
Lord
choose
Fox
to watch
prefers
that
the old effects, and I agree. I do. We have to be honest about Terry Nation, says Lee. He was a broad strokes writer. Yeah, that's beautifully put.
Yes.
He really was a bit of a grifter. It was the other writers that fleshed out his ideas constantly. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And this entire set is being fleshed out considerably. There's a huge list of extras here. And Matthew Sweet is in conversation with Brian Croucher and Roger Murray Leach. Now, he was the designer, wasn't he? Again, another fascinating figure. We've got a second new feature-length documentary looking back at the making of Series B, Liberation, Series 2, they've called that. There's archival documentaries as well. The Kevin Davies documentaries in there. There's a tribute to Jacqueline Pierce, long-form tribute, as well as a further tribute to the actor David Jackson, who played Gan as well. Rare convention footage, audio commentaries, visual archives, and HD photo galleries, and more undisclosed archive treats, all in there in the Series B and Series 2 Blake 7 box set, which could be with you as it is with us, I feel, in coming weeks, or maybe you've asked to be treated to it as a Christmas present by someone dear to you, in which case, Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah. So I'm well happy with this. It'll be a while until I watch these, to be honest, because I haven't long finished watching Series A. So yeah, I'll get onto this probably in the new year. But it's one of those where I thought to myself, well, I could probably wait. If I wait a few months, in fact, it might be a £5 cheaper. I thought, I have this sort of voice in my head, David, saying, what if it sells out? You've only have yourself to blame.
Yeah. And that's my thing. So I always generally get it on pre-order because I got my fingers burnt with season 12 Blu-ray of Doctor Who the first time round. So I had to wait to get the reissue. Yeah. So now I'm very much, it's out. Right. Okay. It's announced. Right. Pre-order. It's easy just to click a button and then it comes when it comes. But like you, I'll probably not get to it till the new year, but it means that I can finally get rid of that Alan Stevens and Fiona Moore book that took Blake 7, in my opinion, to ridiculous levels of interpretation, especially around certain characters like Gan and Avon, and we're trying to imply things that just blatantly aren't there. If you know what I mean.
Oh, that kind of stuff. I haven't got time.
Yeah, and that was very tiresome on me, and I don't think that was ever in Chris Brouch's mind when he wrote.
It certainly was never in David Jackson's or Gareth Thomas's minds. Stephen
No.
O'Neill has hung on to his DVD copy of Terror of the
Good man.
Zygons. Prudent choice. And Lee is looking forward to the Jacqueline Pierce documentary. That's obviously going to be very special. Was Blake 7 very left wing politically? That's for you to mull over here, and a conversation certainly for another time here, rather than this edition of our stream. Series 1 of Blake 7 on Blu-ray is £45 in store at HMV, so it's gone up by a fiver.
Oh,
so I've definitely done the
inflation.
right thing. Well, I'd be pissed off if I'd have waited and it had gone up even by a fiver. Yeah, that's against my religion. That would be against my faith. So Blake 7, happy Blake 7 release, everyone. If you want to hear more talk about Blake 7 from us and everybody at Type 40, then by all means let us know. If you haven't had your set yet, we hope the postman supplies sooner rather than later, or that you get it underneath your Christmas tree over the festive period and enjoy. Okay. Let's wrap it up, I think, David, and with a blast of what? Oh, this.
I really hope they improve those special effects on the Blu-ray.
That was the work of Darren Lit Roundles with some hardcore but top draw AI slop. But that's certainly chimed with a lot of how we feel. So we've been on the time lash at lunchtime too, David. Naughty. Your leader.
I know.
It's right.
I know. Well, somebody's got to go on the time lash, and to be fair, you never know. You might end up in H.G. Wells's cottage.
I forgot about that. I could talk. I'd love Time Lash. Absolutely love it.
It's great. It's a great story.
People look at me very strangely when I say that. They do. Thank you, everybody who's chipped in for this chill stream, which still hasn't got a name. But if you want more from us, you know where to go, where to look to keep your eyes and ears peeled for the Type 40 podcast across all major podcatchers and at our home feed, type40.podbean.com, with all of that. There's Type 40 Live, of course, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Sometimes twice a week, sometimes once a week, depending on the ebb and flow of news from the Doctor Who universe. That's our fun, long-form panel show live streams, which, it's back tomorrow and more coming next week. We'll keep that under our hats for the time being, but you're not going to want to miss it. We're going to have some fun in the run-up to Doctor Who Day. Just thinking about it, David, is tiring. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted already. But thank you for joining me for this one. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. It's always good to catch up, mate.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure, and I love talking about shit generally. So everything.
I've been meaning to say for the entire hour and a half as well. Love the t-shirt. I like the minimalist stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, there's future Doctor's companion on there, but I'd like to say I'd like to pick the Doctor who I sort of like join, if that's all right, because
if you're going to be rattling around in space and time, you don't be doing it with somebody who's going to get on your tits, do you? So yes, David, I'm going to say we always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40, but I'll leave you to say goodbye to everybody. Say bye-bye, David. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, David. Bye-bye.